ממש מהר יחסית, תוך 5 שנים, הוא הצטרף בגיל 19, הוא מייסד ה-Rat Pack, מרוויח מעל $40,000 בחודש, בן אדם ניידד טריינר של החברה, הוא מאמן ראשי של החברה, לי יצא באופן אישי לראות אותו בברצלונה ב-2015, שהוא אימן בבוטקאמפ, ואחר כך הוא היה בארץ בתור ריג'ונל, אני מאוד 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 מתרגש, כי זה באמת נדיר ומיוחד, מלא זמן לא היה לנו ככה מישהו בקליבר שלו, ברמה שלו, מאמן אצלנו, אז אני הולך לעבור לאנגלית ולהדיר אותו. So, Lorenzo, we are totally ready for you. Can't wait to hear what you got to say. The stage is yours. Thank you so much for your time. People know that you've been in the business since you were 19 years old. Everybody know that you're a knighted trainer for us. We are so honored and blessed that you have given your time to us, in order to help our organization build. This is beyond anything we could ever expect from anyone. So thank you so much for your time, and take it away.
Yeah, buddy. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you perfect. I'm going to mute myself now.
Perfect. Well, thanks for the nice words, brother, and I appreciate you guys having me on, and just being willing to hang out for a couple of minutes. And I'll talk. I talk very fast, so I'm going to try to slow down a little bit because I know not everybody is as fluent in English as I am. I'm not actually very fluent in English myself. I'm not very good at speaking English, but I'm excited. I think a lot of you guys probably just got back from the boot camp. I think it was out in Ireland, so I mean, I saw a lot of pictures. It looked like the energy was amazing. And I'm just really excited to be able to spend some time with you guys. And I've probably met a decent chunk of you guys. I think 3 years ago now that I was out in Israel. So, that was one of the best trips I've ever been on. So I'm looking forward to definitely coming back. But if I have not met you guys, I got started in World Ventures when I was 19. I was a freshman in college out here in Colorado, which is like right in the middle of the United States. And I had never done network marketing before. I didn't have any business background. I did not, have any sales background. I mean, I was 19. I was broke. I didn't have a job, and I'm very naturally introverted. And so talking to people was not something that was really my thing to do. And so everything about this is, made me uncomfortable in the beginning. But I remember my buddy, my best friend that I grew up with, he called me up one night and said, "Hey, I got something you got to see," and dropped up at my place and showed me the presentation. And that was the night that I got signed up. And I'll kind of give you guys the bird's eye view, and then I'll kind of get into the meat of it and dissect it a little bit. Because, I've been in this for 11 years now. This is all I've done to make money. It's all I've done pretty much my entire adult life, and it's all I ever want to do. So that's really the perspective that I'm coming at it from. But when I got started, my best buddy, I trusted him, and it was just so different than anything I had ever learned before. My whole life, and I'm sure it's probably similar out there where, we're taught, go to school, get good grades, get a degree, and then hopefully you can go out and get a good job and then someday maybe retire. And that's just not something that happens anymore out here. It's not a reality. And most people that go to university, they get done with school with a lot of debt. They end up paying that off for the next 20 or 30 years. They have a hard time getting ahead in life. And it's just because we were all taught the same stuff. And if you keep doing the same stuff you've always done, you keep getting the same stuff. You keep getting the same stuff you've always gotten. And so, sometimes when you learn some new information, you can make new decisions and create some different outcomes for yourself. And so that's really how I saw this. This was just a totally different way of, making money and really building a life that I did not even know existed. And, once your mind gets expanded by something new, it's like it can never go back. Ignorance is not bliss anymore. So now that I knew what was possible, it was like I can't live with myself if I don't at least give it a shot. Because you can always go back to school, you can always get a job, you can always start a new career, but opportunities like World Ventures, they don't come around very often, and I've heard this, time and time again over the 10 years I've been in it from other, people that have been other network marketing companies and have been around the block a few times. And World Ventures is not, it's we call it a unicorn. It's something that, like you're in the right place at the right time. You have to realize it, and then you have to take, massive immediate action. And so, thankfully we were just in the mindset to, at least go for it and see what would happen with it, and then just kind of grow as we went. And I didn't really understand everything when we got started. And I remember my first week, just off of pure enthusiasm and excitement, my first week I showed 10 of my buddies, and 6 of them got signed up. So I made my money back pretty quickly. And then, we had a good story to start with, but then we hit a brick wall, probably for a couple of months where, the meetings were small. We were doing a lot of travel parties, just having people over at the house. But, they were small meetings. We weren't getting many people signed up. It was $400 US to sign up when we got in. And I was showing all of my college buddies that were 18 to 22. And so most of them were in the same position as I was, where they were broke and didn't have any money and just really didn't have much going on for them. And so, eventually we turned that into a benefit for us and an asset. But in the beginning, it was a little bit of a struggle. And then I remember my buddy Mark, who signed me up, my sponsor, before they got me into it, they had gone to a Super Saturday training, a smaller training with some of the top leaders in a different state. And so they came back excited from that. And that's when they got me signed up. And so about 2.5 months in, we had another training that was coming up, and it was a big event, kind of like a momentum or like a boot camp. We used to call them accelerations. And so there was one happening in Minnesota, which, if you're geography at all, like Colorado to Minnesota is not a short trip. I mean, we couldn't afford to fly, so we had to drive 20 hours, during the winter, which in Minnesota is like negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it's like super cold, it's a blizzard. And so we ended up having to, put a lot of things together to go on this trip. But I remember, even though I was frustrated because we weren't making any money during that 2 months, they were telling me, hey, we need to go to this training. And I remember being very reluctant and not wanting to go because, I spent all week in class, at college in lecture class. And so in my brain, I thought a training was going to be like school, like a lecture class, which that's like I hate doing it during the week. The last thing I want to do on my weekend is spend more time at school, being bored out of my mind. And so that's how I related it. And you don't know what you don't know. So obviously, since I hadn't been to a training, I didn't know what they really were all about. And so thankfully, like a good sponsor, they just wore me out. I mean, they beat me over the head, just, were relentless with me. And we're like, we got to go to this training. And then eventually, after like 30 days of working on me, I was like, man, it'll be worth it for me to go just to get them to shut up, to get them off my back. And so I really went to get them to stop talking about it. And I did not go in the mind frame of really getting anything out of it. I was like, you know what? It's a weekend with my buddies. It's a trip. It's our first trip out of the state, really. So it's like a fun vacation, if you will. But training was the last thing on my mind. And so, but I had to come up with the $300. And so we picked some money together, 7 of us in a van, drove cross country, and went to this training. And that weekend changed my whole life. I mean, I can pinpoint all of my success in World Ventures and a lot in my life back to that weekend. Because had I not gone, confidently, I can say that I would definitely not be where I'm at today. And I'll get into that here in a second. And so thankfully, the people that sponsored me had the awareness level to not buy my excuses and to know that I didn't know what I don't know. And they just wore me out and got me in the door. And when I got there, I got a chance to meet Wayne, the owner, and I got a chance to, meet the top income earners and just see the bigger picture. And that weekend, my belief level just went through the roof. And I wasn't just in World Ventures anymore, but now World Ventures was inside of me. And when that transition happened, that's when like the floodgates open. I mean, everything just kind of starts to fall into place. And I remember that weekend thinking to myself, like, man, I got so much out of it. I learned so much. The energy was amazing. My belief went up. But I just remember thinking, like, you know what? If all I do is get my team to these trainings and they get the same stuff that I just got and they get the same feeling that I just got and their belief goes to the level that mine's at now, we're going to crush this thing. And I don't have to be the guy, because I was still, again, I'm naturally introverted. So like being in front of the room and speaking and training and all that stuff. And that's not something that was really in my comfort zone at the time. It's really still not. But, so I figured if I just get people in the environment and they're just going to, World Ventures will get inside of them and they'll just start doing it without me. And then we can multiply and we can duplicate. And so every month we had a training like that. We had a boot camp every 30 days and they were always $300. We always had to drive 15 to 20 hours because there was nothing in our city or anywhere near us. And so it was a struggle to get to the trainings every month because we were broke. But I made a decision that weekend that I'm never going to miss a training and I am never going to be there with less people, because now I got the goods, like I got the music in me. So that's really all we did. The 2 things, I guess, if you want to write something down, the 2 things that we do in this business, the first thing is you manage your activity. Okay. So you put in the work. It's like going to the gym. You don't have to go to the gym 7 days a week and wreck yourself to get results. But if you go 2 or 3 days a week, consistently every week, eventually that's going to start to work in your favor and you start to build momentum. And so our business is the same. You don't have to put 40 hours a week into it. You just, whatever you can do, you just need to keep that consistent every single week. And then over time, you start to build momentum. You get into a groove, but you have to manage that activity because you can't get results at the gym if you don't go to the gym, and you can't get results in World Ventures if you're not out there exposing people. And that's our activity. It's doing the travel parties. It's doing 2-on-1s and 1-on-1s, or getting on Zooms, or doing 3-way calls, like getting in front of, getting the information in front of people. So that's what we would do. We got home, we get busy doing our travel parties, showing the plan. And then the ones that said yes, because again, some will, some won't, not everybody did it. We did, my first 3 months, we had 27 people on the team total. And in the next 30 days after that training, we put in 70. So we doubled our team, in a third of the time. So that was the effect that the training had. And so we get back to our travel parties, and then the ones that got in, we beat them over the head to get to the training. I did exactly to them what my buddies did to me, and I just wore people out to get to that next event. And so every event we had more people there. And what we figured out is the more people that we had at the training, the faster our team grew, right? And the more leaders started to develop, and the more we would multiply. And that's literally how I've built my whole business over the last 11 years. Is we manage our activity, and then we go to and promote all of the trainings, all right? Because if you don't go to the trainings, like the main thing that got our team to the training was because we were going. It would have been really hard for me to tell people to go if I wasn't going. Like that, it's hard for us to operate outside of our integrity. And so if you're not doing something, it's hard to tell other people to do it. And so that's why I made that decision. I'm not going to miss trainings, because if I don't go, my team's not going to go. And I go because I need it. I'm a human being. So I get beat up, and I get, my mind, like I go through the ebbs and flows of the business. And so I definitely need it. But the main reason I go to the trainings is because more people will go, which has a direct impact on my paycheck. And so we did that month after month, and then the team started to grow. So after, my first year, I was at director. After 2.5 years, we hit marketing director. So we had about 400 people on the team. I hit RMD in 4 years and was making 6 figures then, and NMD in 4.5 years, and then IMD in 5 years. And so for the last 6.5 years, we've been at the top level of the company. And my first 4 years, again, it takes a long time to become an overnight success. And we were young. I mean, I was 19 when I got in. So it's like we had a big learning curve. We had a lot of personal growth to go through, leadership development. I mean, there's a process that you have to go through, and you have to, you have to be willing to pay that price. But the payoff is just so big. Like my first 4 years in the business combined, I made $88,000 total. So I made $8,000 in my first year. My second year, I made $18,000. My third year, I made $26,000. And then in my fourth year, I made $36,000. Now, for most of you that are doing this part-time, like you already have a job, or you have a career, or you have a business, you already have your bills paid for, like if your first year you go make $8,000 part-time on top of what you already make, like that's a great story. Like that's awesome. But if you make $8,000 full-time, that's not a great story anymore. And I was full-time. So I was like, beating my head against the wall because I'm trying to show people how to go make this work. And they're like, you only made $8,000 and you're doing this full-time. Like I can't afford to take that big of a pay cut. And so we were really going against the grain for a while. But my first 4 years didn't make a whole lot of money. I remember having a lot of frustrating times, a lot of ups and downs. I would never quit, but there's plenty of times where I thought about quitting. There's plenty of times where I was, just not wanting to go to the training, but I still went anyway. I mean, the main thing we did was we kept showing up, even when we didn't want to. And that made all of the difference. That got us, through to the next event and just gave us some more life in our tank. And then for whatever reason, I get asked all the time, like, what was the, like people want to know what was the specific thing, after that fourth year that made your business take off. And it's such a hard question for me to ask or to answer, because there's not just one thing. It was a lot of little things coming together just at one time. And because in my fourth year, I made $36,000, and my fifth year, I made $190,000, and I hit RMD. And my income went from about $1,500 a month. It was actually going backwards towards the end of my fourth year. And I dropped down to director. I went from making about $1,500 a month to $10,000 a month almost overnight, and never looked back. And then I went from 192. The next year I made 360. Then I made 400. Then I made 500. And we've made about $2.5 million over the last 6 years. And I mean, I've had a fairy tale lifestyle. I mean, they pay for our cars, they pay for our house. You know, we've been to 10 countries in the last couple of years. We've been on 38 dream trips. I met my wife in World Ventures. So there's been a lot of great things that have come, you know, from World Ventures or stemmed from it. But a lot of people are like, well, how'd you go from 36,000 to 190 in that second year or that fifth year? And I think it was just a combination of, you know, like we had been doing it. Like if you do the right thing for long enough, eventually something's going to happen. You know, so we were just consistent long enough. We had finally grown enough. And I think everybody, and you might have a few of these moments, but we're all going to have at least one defining moment where you make a decision in World Ventures that can either make or break you. And my 4th year into it, or at the end of it, we had what we call Go IMD. It's a director and above training that the leaders in the U.S. do. And it was the first one that we were doing. And it was actually in Colorado. So it was like an hour away from us. So it was like the first training we didn't have to travel to. It was right in our backyard. It was a dream trip / a leadership training. So it was a fun weekend. And my income was going backwards. And I was frustrated because I was like 180 on one leg and about 190 on the other. And so, my income was going back. My rank had dropped. There were people in World Ventures joining that were in for a year that were already, you know, blowing way past me. And so now I'm starting to compare myself to other people. And this was the first training since my first one that I just legitimately didn't want to go to. Like I was not going to go to the training. I thought it was going to be a waste of time. I didn't know what it was going to be like. And I was just like all up in my head. I was being an idiot. And I decided I wasn't going to go. And my buddy, David Townsend, who a lot of you guys know, he's a national marketing director. David, he's on my team, mind you. And I told him I wasn't going to go. And he's like, whatever, you're an idiot. And he sent me a screenshot because he went and just bought the training for me. And so since he paid for it and spent his money, I had an obligation to go now. And so I went basically because I didn't want him wasting his money and because I felt bad. And it's just kind of funny how sometimes the things that you don't want to do the most end up being the best moments for you if you're there. And I needed my buddy to get me there. So thankfully I had him looking out for me. Otherwise it'd be a different story. But I went to that weekend and we learned a lot of stuff. I mean, it's a leadership training. It's a lot higher level stuff, but it wasn't really anything that I learned. The one thing that happened that weekend, and this is super silly when you hear it, but for whatever reason, you know, in our business, our success rides and falls on belief, okay? The belief in yourself that you can do it. And that first training that I went to back in the day, you know, when we went to that training, I saw people walk stage that were hitting certain ranks that weren't any better than me. And I remember that was one of the biggest things that sent my belief through the roof, because I was like, if these people can do it, I can do it. And so I went from not believing in myself to believing in myself. And now our results started to follow in suit. And sorry, somebody was trying to call me. So my belief, you know, went up and then results kind of followed in that. And so going to this training 4 years into it, my belief was taking a beating. And I don't know why this was it, but I remember David Peach, who's $1 million earner. He said this one thing. He said, people in network marketing routinely, like regularly, make $20,000 to $30,000 a month. And he said it nonchalantly. And for whatever reason, I remember thinking to myself in that moment, like, if people make routinely in network marketing 20 to 30 grand a month, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I do it? And my belief trigger just switched on. I don't know why it was that. And that weekend, I kind of recalibrated myself. I remade a new decision that I was stopped by my own excuses. We'd grown a lot, so I was at a different level leadership-wise. And we just decided, hey, we're going to go for it again, like with all the energy that we have. And we left that weekend going backwards. And in the next 90 days, we put over 1,200 people in the system. I went from director to RMD in 90 days. 6 months after that, NMD. 6 months after that, IMD. So an 18-month swing from director to IMD, and my income just went through the roof. And so that was my belief, but it was a lot of these things kind of coming together at once. And so I'm saying all that to say, don't miss your moment, because you're going to have a few of those. And you're going to have your defining moment, and you need to be aware that when you're getting beat up and your belief might be taking a beating, that your moment is coming. And what you do, like Tony Robbins says, it's what you do in your moments of decision that like shape your destiny. It's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. And that was one of those defining moments where if I didn't go, I'd still be in World Ventures, but I don't think I'd be at the level that I'm at now for sure. I'd still be trudging along. And so for what it's going to be different for everybody. So all I'm saying is you got to be consistent. You got to go to the trainings. Don't miss a training. No matter what excuses you've got, do never miss a training. Always have more people there with you. And it's okay to get beat up and have to recalibrate and remake a new decision. Okay. Because sometimes you just have to reset, clean slate it, and just say, hey, we're going to go for it again. Forget about the past. Forget about what, if you failed a little bit. Forget if you've been winning. Sometimes success is our worst enemy because, then we get complacent and we get comfortable and it puts us in a bad spot again. And so it's okay to make a new decision, but you have to be around the campfire and just stay around it. It's just if you get too far away from the training, our campfire, if you stop going to travel parties, if you stop going to training, people don't quit World Ventures in one moment. People quit World Ventures one compromise at a time. And what I mean by that is they miss a travel party. They don't go to this training. They don't get on this conference call. They don't answer the phone when their sponsor calls them to see how they're doing. And they go into witness protection and they just disappear, because the further away you get from the campfire, eventually it becomes impossible to find your way back. Like those of you that go to the gym regularly, you will understand this. Where you go to the gym, you get in a groove, you're getting results. And if you take like 2 months off of going to the gym, first off, that sucks because you lose everything that you just gained. But when you want to go back into the gym, you have to start from scratch. Like you don't start where you left off. And so you mentally know, I'm going to have to be sore again. I'm going to be more sore. I'm going to lift less weight. I'm going to run a shorter distance, and you're going to have to break the cobwebs out over the next few weeks. And so pride gets in the way of people in World Ventures because they think because they've been away from so long that people are going to think less of them if they come back around. So don't ever get away from the campfire because you got to stay warm, and it always keeps you in position to have that breakthrough. So I know we've got some trainings that are coming up. I mean, I know there's one in July that's taking place in Israel. I mean, you guys get all the details on that. And so we need to go build, manage your activity now so that you got new butts in the seat. That's how you get new momentum. It's new blood is the lifeblood, all right? Forget about everybody else, all right? If there's people that are just dead wood right now and they're just hanging out and they're just not wanting to do anything, that's fine. Go get some new blood in there because there's nothing like a new excited person, all right? When you get somebody that's fired up, that's gung-ho about this thing, it relights you up. And so you got to stay around new people to keep that energy. And you got to get new people in the butts, get their butts in the seats at that training in July. And then you guys need to promote your brains out for the view in November and have more people there than you had at boot camp. And if your numbers just get bigger from training to training, your team is going to get bigger and your check is going to rise with the level that your team has at trainings, okay? There's a correlation between your training, how many people are at training, and your paycheck, all right? The more people I got at training, the bigger my paycheck was. And so you just got to stay around it, And I know I don't know if it's still the same as when I was out there. And I guess what I'll leave you guys with is, when I was out there, I think we had about 800 or 900 people at the regional I was doing. And the majority of the people in that room were in their 20s, early 20s, which is awesome. And I'm sure it's changed the dynamics. People start getting friends and family and parents in. So I'm sure it's a little bit more diverse. But if you're still in that group, just because that's where I was at, I'm going to speak to that for a second. But, the young energy it's amazing. Not that you can't get energy from all different, different spots. But, like I tell my team all the time, like if you're 18 or 19 or 20 or in your early 20s, you've got some time to figure it out. God willing, like we have more time on the clock, but like you got time to figure it out. I remember being, at a training out here many years back, and I was just frustrated. And Marcus said, our director of training, I was buddy with him at the time, and he knew I was frustrated, and he just pulled me aside one day, and he was like, "Dude, you need to like relax and just chill out. Like you're 21, okay? Like I know you want it to happen faster, but people have been doing this for a lot longer. That's why they're doing better at it faster because they paid their dues. Like you're just going through the process. You're going through the journey. Like if it takes you till you're 24 or 25 to really figure it out, you're doing all right. All right. It's not like you're knocking on the door to, being, 80 or 90 or 100 years old where you're kind of on a clock. So just relax. And so if you're in that group, just relax, have fun with it. I made a decision that, I was just going to do this no matter what. I didn't care if I got rich, didn't care how much money I made. I just wanted to make enough money that paid my bills, and I would have been happy with that, okay? Because I just love World Ventures so much, and I could at least have ownership of my life, even if I'm not rich. And thankfully, it can always get much bigger than that, and we've gotten to that point now. But you know, just have fun with it. You know, go through the process, respect that, and if you pay the price will eventually pay you. All right, pay your dues up front. The dues start paying you, and it's always 100 or 1,000-fold on the back end. But a lot of people just, you know, they cash it in right before their magic moment, and then it's like, you know, then you got to live with that for the rest of your life. And I never wanted to be out of position to capitalize on that. And sometimes you need other people to hold you accountable, like I had for me. But you know, if you get good at this now, even if it takes you 2, 3, 4, 5 years, awesome. You know, I mean, if not this, then what? You know, and if not now, when? You know, I mean, if there's something better out there, I'm all about it. I'm doing this for 11 years. I mean, if there's something better out there, I'm all about it. But this is the best thing that I know exists, which is why we do it full throttle as much as we can. But even if it takes us 10 years to really hit it out of the park, what else could you possibly be doing over the next 10 years that can have this kind of payoff? Okay. And so it's worth it, and it's worth sticking it out. And you guys have great leadership. I know out there, I mean, there's just great people. I mean, overseas in general, I mean, you guys just have, you know, a lot different energy than we do in the U.S. People are a lot more motivated, in my opinion, just from my travels. And so take advantage of that and that energy and the desire that people just want a different life and they want freedom, and they're willing to go work for it because, you know, out here in the U.S., sometimes it's just too easy for people as far as like their lifestyle. And so it's okay to be broke because they get comfortable being broke. And if you can find a way to not be comfortable in that and break through to get something better, I mean, you guys can have everything you want in World Ventures. You just got to see it through, get good at it, build your influence, build your leadership, stick with the people that are doing it, and just give it enough time, you know, and then when that magic moment converges, it's like, boom, life can change overnight. And, you know, I'm just very grateful for it. So, but yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm excited for you guys. Hopefully I get a chance to take another trip out there pretty soon. And if I can ever help or, you know, add value, you guys definitely, you know, give me a shout, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, whatever the case is. And then hopefully I'll get a chance to see you guys at one of the next big events and take some pictures and hear all the great stories that are floating around.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Lorenzo. Thank you for your time. Everybody, I mean, we don't want to hold you any longer, so thank you so much. We appreciated you. We love you. We can't wait to host you again back at our beautiful country, and hopefully we'll see you at international events soon overseas. Thank you so much. Peace out. חברים, תודה רבה 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 לכל מי שהיה. רק שתדעו שהשיחה הזאת מוקלטת, אני אשמח באמת בשם כולנו, מי שיכול ככה לשלוח לו הודעה באינסטגרם, בפייסבוק. הבן אדם פשוט נתן חצי שעה מהזמן שלו עכשיו ונתן את הלב שלו, ראיתם, הוא נתן את כל מה שיש, ואני ראיתי אותו מאמן באירועים בינלאומיים, והוא פשוט היה אותו דבר, באמת, הוא פשוט באמת נתן את הלב שלו. אז תודה רבה לאליאור כהן, שעשה את החיבור הזה בינינו ועזר לנו בעצם לייצר את הוובינר הזה. אז חברים, בואו נשתמש במומנטום, בואו נשתמש בידע הזה. אנחנו הולכים, מחר יש טראבל פארטי בהוד השרון בפרלמנט, בשבוע הבא יש לנו גם כן מצגות וטראבלים, ב-30 ליוני יש לנו עוד וובינר עם IMD, טריינר נוסף של החברה, אנחנו נוציא על זה פרסום בקרוב, ובשמיני לשביעי יש לנו את הערב צוות. אז חברים, בואו נצא עם כל האנרגיה הזאת. תודה רבה על הזמן שלכם. Let's get it.